Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we'll be attempting to solve the mystery of who murdered the Count of Cheydinhall's wife, Lady Lothasa Indaris. Also, why then did the Grey Fox react to this tragedy by callously having her statue stolen? And finally, we'll be exploring undoubtedly the biggest iceberg on this channel to date, involving a familiar political figure from Morrowind that is arguably responsible for Skooma running rampant, the mythic Dawn cult's revenge, and for an Oblivion Gate outside of Cheydinhall that will possibly kill the Count's only son. However, to untangle this web of seemingly unconnected events, we must first complete the quest, the Elven Maiden.
Speak, Imperial Dog.
To begin the Elven Maiden, we must return to Armand Kristoff in the Garden of Dariloth past midnight, having fenced over 100 gold to proceed.
Good to see you again.
After which, we question, have any more special jobs going?
The Guild has received a request to obtain a unique statuette. It is a bust of Lothasa Indaris, the recently slain Countess of Cheydinhall. You will be paid a modest sum. Do you want this job?
Modest sum. Well, at least he's honest. I'll take it.
Excellent. Bring it back to me once you have it.
Before leaving, we ask, Armand, you previously said the Grey Fox led the guild for over 300 years. How is this possible?
He's been around for hundreds of years. I've heard tell that he is immortal. I don't know about that, but he sure ain't normal. Shadow hide you.
Huh. As we ponder on the Grey Fox's identity, this is a time to miss a crucial detail in the quest. If we cast the superior Detect Life spell, we would see a figure crouched behind the wall, being our recruiter, Mavrina Arano. Catching out the sleuthy Dunmer, she questions indignantly.
What do you want?
I don't know. Outside of wanting to know what you're doing back here, we were just tasked with stealing the bust of Lothasa Indaris. Do you know anything about it that could help?
Bust? What bust? I didn't overhear any conversation about a bust.
I didn't say you did. Did you hear us discussing the Grey Fox?
He's kind of like a guildmaster for the Thieves Guild. All I know is that the Doyen and other senior guild members do his bidding like trained dogs.
Trained dogs? Maybe not everyone is so lucky to be exempt of the waterfront tax like you, Arano. I saw your name crossed off the ledger. Say, what do you know about Hieronymus Lex?
He's captain of the Imperial Watch. He's pursuing a personal vendetta against the Thieves Guild and the Grey Fox. I heard the Grey Fox personally humiliated Lex years ago when he tried to arrest Armand Kristoff for theft. Lex has never forgotten it. I'm leaving now.
Mavrina then promptly leaves, and we're perplexed at this interaction as something feels, well, it doesn't matter. As we have a task at hand, and our journal has updated. Armand of the Thieves Guild has asked me to steal the bust of Lothasa Indaris from Cheydinhall. They will pay 100 gold coins. And so we begin our journey to the east, entering the dark elf town of Cheydinhall, and see outside the east gate the aging Bruchius, the orphan who begs.
Have pity on an old war veteran. One more coin, and I can get a pair of shoes.
Have you heard of the bust of Lothasa Indaris?
Sure, yeah, I've heard about it. What's it worth to ya?
Worth? Oh, you beggars. Can you just tell me?
Then bugger off.
This is never-ending. 15 coins sounds right, yes?
Count Indaris recently commissioned a bust of Lothasa. They say the elves carved it. He put it near her tomb in the chapel Undercroft. He also posted a guard so that her tomb wouldn't be disturbed. Used to be anyone could visit her, but now it's off limits to the public. There's a rumour going around that the Undercroft may be haunted.
Blessings of Akatosh upon you.
We also further hear rumours from the beggars about the Count's slain wife.
It's been 20 years or more since the Count married Lothasa. Oh, she was a beautiful elven bride.
She remained young while he aged. Not too long ago she was found slain. It's all hush-hush. Nobody knows exactly what happened.
Blessings of Anu upon ye.
I learned that the bust of Lothasa Indaris is in her tomb. She's buried in the chapel undercroft of the Temple of Arkay in Cheydinhal. However, feeling for the Count's loss, and a little bad we're about to steal from him, we visit Count Andal Indaris in Castle Cheydinhal to see he even leaves flowers for his poor departed beloved, taken too soon. However, to our slight dismay, when first greeted, he pompously introduces.
I am Andal Indaris, Count Cheydinhal. There is no more generous or just ruler in Cyrodiil, if I say so myself.
Well, seems you're in rather good spirits, all things considered.
Just look around. Is not Cheydinhal the model of civic rule? No, don't bow. I am just a humble servant of the people. I'm done talking to you.
It should be noted we will follow up on the oddly chipper Count's reaction post his wife's passing and divine her murderer's identity after the quest is concluded. Instead, trusting the Grey Fox knows what he's doing, we head to the Temple of Arkay by the East Gate. Once inside, we bump into a sizable Nord who welcomes.
Praise Arkay, and all his little woodland creatures. I'm Hill the Tall, priest of Arkay. I'm also a trainer in the arts of alteration. I love magic, too. I love everything, and everyone. You too.
Did he get rejected from Anvil's Chapel of Debella? I thought Arkay was all business and no necromancy. Say, why did you pick Cheydinhal? You're a Nord.
I came here because I love nature. Because I didn't want to serve as a boot wizard in a mountain legion in Skyrim. Bye.
Well, fair call. Making our trip a short one, we slip down the nearby stairs and break into the western door to the chapel undercroft. Once inside, we realise we're not alone, as we're forced to endure the blathering of a local priest and undercroft guard.
How goes it?
Fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Good.
Have you heard any word about the other provinces?
I understand Daedra worship has become increasingly prevalent in the Somerset Isle.
The Altmer have powerful wizards. It could be a dangerous situation.
Good day.
Once the two have ended their gossip, we gingerly slip past the guard and down the western wing to see at the end of the corridor the bust of Lothasa by flowers, like her husband had laid on her chair. It should be noted, if we attempt to loot Lothasa's tomb, it probably won't be worth the pittance you can steal, as her enraged ghost bursts forth. Having been made, we sprint out of the undercroft topside to the temple, where Lothasa's sentry taunts.
Ha!
I'll take Lothasa's statue off your cold, dead body.
Only to be finally betrayed by our one-time love, Hill the Tall.
This ends. Greetings to you.
Hey.
Otherwise, stealing only the statue. Our quest updates. I have the bust. Now to get back to Armand. Returning to the waterfront district, we're met with a harsh bark of a nearby guard.
Have you seen Armand Kristoff? Keep moving, scum.
Taken aback, we begin our trek to the shacks and realize something is terribly wrong in our quest updates. The waterfront is crawling with the Imperial Watch. They're all looking for Armand Kristoff. I'm sure he won't show at midnight. Daralos Garden is too hot. I'll need to find out where he's hiding. Maybe one of the other Thieves Guild members knows. I'll have to start asking around for them. Entering the township, we overhear Hieronymus Lex pressure one of the locals.
Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff is hiding?
No, sir. Please don't hurt me. Hello.
Can you tell me where Armand Kristoff is hiding? What do you want? Can't you see I'm in the middle of an investigation?
Investigation for what? The bust of Lothasa and Darius?
You know where the bust is hidden?
Not really. I was joking.
Then you are wasting my time.
And then question us. Perplexed at what's happening and where Armand may be, we see a wandering Hillod the outlaw who questions.
Yes. You wear the shadows well, fellow thief.
The guards have this place in lockdown. Where is Armand Kristoff?
He's in hiding. I hear Methredel is looking for you, though. Shadow hide you.
Heading to Methredel's house, we unfortunately find it empty. And so we choose to regroup in the Garden of Daraloth to see the Bosma jog up to us, exclaiming,
Thank goodness I found you. I assume you know that Hieronymus Lex has issued an arrest warrant for Armand Kristoff.
Yeah, and they haven't been playing around this time. Where is Armand Kristoff? I have the bust.
He is in hiding. Armand is accused of stealing the bust of Lothasa Indaris from Cheydinhal. They say Count Indaris himself filed the charges.
Damn it. What do I even do with the bust, then?
There never was a client that commissioned the guild to steal Lothasa's bust. Armand used you to flush out an informant that infiltrated the guild.
Used is right. So, who is this informant?
Mavrina Arano. Now Armand needs your help to neutralize her. You're going to pin the theft of the bust on Mavrina. She lives in the waterfront.
How?
Plant the bust in her cupboard. Make sure she doesn't see you. Then go tell Hieronymus Lex that she is the thief. He probably won't believe you, so you may have to persuade him. Hopefully he will at least go and check it out. Shadow hide you.
Ignoring the guards, we make our way to Uranus' residence, realizing how the sneaky Dunmer gained clemency from the taxes of the waterfront, which we discovered in the previous episode.
Have you seen Armand Kristoff?
Waiting until nightfall and silently slipping into her abode, we sneak up to her cupboard and place the statue inside as our quest updates. The bust is in Mavrina's cupboard. Now to tell that windbag Lex where to find it. It should be noted, despite being told specifically not to make her aware of our presence or the bust, she doesn't actually react to us intruding, so instead we simply locate Lex and he barks.
What do you want? Can't you see I'm in the middle of an investigation?
Well, actually, it's about the, bust of Lothasa Indaris.
You know where the bust is hidden?
Mavrina Arano has it.
Your credibility is suspect. You'll have to do better than that to persuade me.
Once we've raised Lex's disposition over 70...
For me? Thanks.
He begins to believe our accusation.
Are you sure? That can't be right. She doesn't seem to be the type.
Go on, go see for yourself. It's in her cupboard.
I don't believe you, but I'll have to check it out anyway. If you are right, there will be hell to pay. You will have to come along.
As we follow on, our quest updates. I told Hieronymus Lex that Mavrina was the thief. He didn't believe me, probably because she's his informant. Fortunately, his overblown sense of duty will make him check it out anyway. He's insisting I follow him.
Hey,
this
what are you
citizen
doing?
is accusing you of stealing the bust of Lothasa from Cheydinhal. I even found the bust in your cabinet. What do you have to say?
Fool! You've just exposed me to the Thieves' Guild! That citizen is actually the guild member that was hired to do the theft!
I have no further use for you. If what I heard is true, you are the thief. If what you say is true, the Grey Fox knows you are my informant. Either way, it's over. You didn't really think I'd trust the likes of you for very long.
But I've been loyal to you. I've reported everything that Armand has done. You can't just toss me aside like a soiled cloth.
Yes, I can. You are under arrest for the theft of the bust of Lothasa Indaris, Countess of Cheydinhal. Come with me.
Our quest and updates. Hieronymus Lex found the bust I planted. Now all I have to do is report to Armand. Unfortunately, I'll have to wait until the next midnight for him to return to the Garden of Daraloth.
Unless you have word of the Grey Fox, my time is limited. Stay safe, citizen. These are dark times.
Just leave.
And so we exit the house, with Arano in tow of Lex, and his guard contingent, apparently satisfied with the outcome of their investigation, leaves the waterfront for good. As we have some time to kill before we can meet Armand, and in true Oblivion fashion, if we return to the prison, we can find Hieronymus leaving after turning the Dunmer in, and he greets.
What is it, citizen?
Inside the prison, if we speak to the jailer, he dismisses.
Speak. Excuse me, I'm on duty.
Sorry, I just wanted to pop in and visit your latest prisoner. Arano is her name.
Certainly, I'll unlock the door for you. Of course, I have to stay with you in there.
Heading down to the cells, the jailer begins a litany of warnings.
Don't get... Prisoners may not accept gifts. Don't get too close to the prisoners.
A handy open lock spell.
No touching the locks!
Why do you bother me? Go away.
Ta-ta, you goblin. And so we leave Mavrina Arano to her fate to languish in her cell. Returning to Armand at midnight, as instructed, he welcomes.
With your help, I uncovered the informant that had compromised the Thieves' Guild. I know I used you in this matter with Lathassa's bust, but I couldn't be certain that you weren't working with Mavrina. Here is the reward you were promised. Even though the bust is gone, you've earned it. I'm also promoting you to the guild rank of Bandit, which will let you use Darji of Leowin as your fence. Good work. Shadow hide you.
So, with the quest complete, let's begin to attempt to unravel the mystery of not only who was responsible for Countess Lathassa Indaris' death, but also examine how exactly the sins of Morrowind caused a butterfly effect so vast and pernicious it brought Skooma, Oblivion Gates, and even the potential deaths of the Count's wife and son to Cheydinhal. And perhaps most odd, why then did the Grey Fox target a seemingly unrelated and innocent dead noblewoman to weed out an informant all the way over in the waterfront district? Big questions and claims, so let me back them up, because I've been waiting to showcase just how deep this web of disastrous events goes thanks to Oblivion's intricate writing. Fair warning, witnessing the rest of this video is akin to reading an Elder Scroll, so mind your eyes. The first salient point to cover is that the Grey Fox was informed of the following Count of Cheydinhal's indiscretions thanks to his intimate dealings with the Cyrodiilic nobility, as some of the vital dialogue we will soon explore can only be heard from the nobility. The relationship of the Grey Fox and nobles is a plot spoiler, so it will be revealed in future episodes. Although to be fair, the common folk seem to share a similar sentiment about Cheydinhal.
Take Cheydinhal, for example. Pretty little town. But the Count's a dark elf and it's crawling with orc thugs and gangsters.
So where did things first go so terribly wrong? Well, apparently the rise of Count Andal Indaris is thanks to a particularly ruthless ruler from Morrowind, if one were to believe the writings found in the Guide to Cheydinhal, which outlines the Count's questionable rise to power reading. Though Cheydinhal lies in the Nibelline East, its culture is shaped by the Dark Elf immigrants who emigrated here in the past half-century from Morrowind. Many of these immigrants were fleeing Morrowind's rigid society and heathen temple theocracy. In Cyrodiil, they hope to find the stimulating commercial atmosphere inspired by Zenithar's patronage. Zenithar being the divine Aedra of work, commerce and trade, a sentiment shared by many Dunmer, including Devera Romulan, a dark elf publican of Newland's Lodge in the city.
Here you have your chapel-going Imperials and your chapel-dodging dark elves, and never the twain shall meet. The Imperials have the gold, houses, and top spots. Dark elves like me left Morrowind and the whole priest-ridden tribunal nightmare. And we take the whole patriotic Imperial mission attitude with a dose of salt.
The guide further asserts, one of these immigrants is now Count Cheydinhal. Andal Indaris was of House Hlalu in Morrowind, but he came to Cheydinhal searching for greater opportunity. His sudden rise into the ranks of Cyrodiilic nobility is hard to explain, and most old families of Cyrodiil rightly regard him as a presumptuous upstart. Congruently, the aforementioned nobles, notably human in Cyrodiil at the time, will actually share how the upstart Andal came to power, saying,
How did a dark elf become Count Cheydinhal? King Helseth and Berenzia have considerable influence, and Helseth and Indaris are cronies. Get it?
Now, for those of you unfamiliar with King Hlalu Helseth, who can be found in the royal palace in Mournhold, as he'd recently become king after the death of his predecessor Letharn. After becoming king, Helseth quickly started to cement his hold on power by using the Dark Brotherhood to assassinate a variety of targets, including an attempt to kill the recently reborn Nerevarine, although, according to Helseth, this was a mistake. The truthfulness of Helseth's apology is suspect, as there was another attempt on the Nerevarines' life while guarding his very mother, Queen Berenzia, for the new king. Although ostensibly, Count Indaris may seem like a power-hungry plant for House Hlalu, it would also be fair to mention the author of the Guide to Cheydinhal and other nobility may suffer from a slightly bigoted perspective. Except for the fact King Helseth oddly tends to play up his habit of assassination, as he was one of the driving forces to publish A Game at Dinner, a book that accuses him of murder. On that note, let's delve deeper and see if you can truly take the Dark Elf out of Morrowind politics but can't take the Morrowind politics out of the Dark Elf. So, who killed the Count's wife and why? Just quickly, I think it goes without saying that his wife coming back as an enraged spirit is pretty indicative that she's not resting well and didn't slip down the stairs as the rumours go. Furthermore, the developers actually took pains to add a quirk to her ghost and chapel guard after the main release, as Lotharsa's spirit will not attack you if you're a pilgrim in the 9 Divines, having started the Knights of the 9 quests, which would also indicate her spirit is restless, but also somewhat virtuous, and the Count may personally be desperate to contain her haunting. Also, remember how Helseth liked to leverage the Dark Brotherhoods in his many assassination attempts? Well, the first inkling that the Dark Brotherhood may or may not have been involved in the Countess's death is first seen when entering the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary, which reads, "It is said that the Count of Cheydinhal knows of the existence of the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary, but bribes and threats of death have done wonders to keep his mouth shut. The inhabitants of the sanctuary also spread unbecoming rumours."
I've heard the Count of Cheydinhal knows about this sanctuary, but he is offered much gold, as well as other incentives, to keep his mouth shut.
Although this may have been a failsafe from his superior, such as King Helseth, which, let's be honest, forcing the Count to keep a Dark Brotherhood sanctuary in his very city as a reminder that he could be removed from power and Helseth would get paid for the privilege is honestly a stroke of genius. Though it doesn't seem the Brotherhood would have committed such a heinous act without gloating about it to their brothers during that questline, which we heard nothing of. Although, to be fair, the leadership aren't really fond of rumours.
Dear brother, I do not spread rumors. I create them.
Other rumours suggest that perhaps it was a more personal matter, as during the quest Corruption and Conscience, the corrupt guard Captain Ulrich writes of the Count. He's so busy wrapped up in his own affairs, and I mean that literally, that he has no time to pay attention to the daily operations of Cheydinhal. Furthermore, rumours of several infidelities can be found in the Guide to Cheydinhal, which the Count also questionably owns a copy of in his personal chambers, where author Alessia Otis writes, "The discovery of the Count's wife, Lady Lothasa Indaris, badly battered and dead at the foot of the county hall stairs, immediately attracted scandal, and rumours of the Count's dissipation, rages, and infidelities suggest a darker mystery behind her death. So, the Count liked to cheat and perhaps fell into a vicious rage at his wife's accusations, an assertion the nobility further backs up gossiping.
Andel Indaris may or may not have killed his wife, and it may or may not have been an accident, and I doubt we'll ever know for sure."
So now we have established a possible motive of adultery. However, exploring the depths of the Count's depravity and finding further proof have just begun. So, how do we realistically prove that these slanderous assertions are somewhat based in reality? Well, another saucy claim by the nobles is the following.
Andel Indaris is an intemperate, bibulous philanderer, and a dark elf. Other than that, he is perfectly suited to be a count.
The one word I love in that sentence is bibulous, meaning excessively fond of drinking alcohol. Although I don't think that's quite what they mean in this case. See, if we follow the Count closely, we'll find, without his pesky wife around, on Loridus, he will go to Riverview for the weekly party at 8 p.m, run by a snooty Altmer noble Voronil who greets.
I'm Voronil. I'm guessing you're angling for an invitation to one of my super parties. Well, forget about it. Invitation only, and no invitation for you, stranger.
Asking him about Cheydinhal will have him remind you that we are not invited to any of his parties.
You're not on my list, and that's all I have to say. If you were somebody, I'd know. But I don't, so you aren't.
But why do high-profile guests visit Riverview, which is locked to the public? Well, unsurprisingly, Voronil just so happens to have Skooma in his chest upstairs. Congruently, the members of the Aurum gang appear at said party to rub shoulders with the Count and his guests. Now, I've made an entire video breaking down the Aurum gang's complex Skooma network, which is distributed all around Cyrodiil, and it appears the Count tacitly, or I'm guessing wholeheartedly, embraces their operation. Furthermore, the supply of said skooma are sent to the Commoner Tong thugs from Morrowind, and the profits are distributed back at Riverview during said party.
If you'll excuse me, I don't have time for you right now, or ever.
Now I'm going to hazard a guess and say the old ball and chain, while still alive, wouldn't appreciate her hubby getting skoomed up before getting down behind some closed doors. The scandal.
I'm just warming up, you pathetic worm!
Okay, so it's clear the Count is living a pretty licentious lifestyle, free of marital responsibilities, and we've established a clear motive of why he would want to remove his wife, in which her spirit becomes enraged and then had the audacity to play martyr to the city to boot. But before we tackle the delicious repercussions for such an act, and let me tell you, the Count does pay more than he would bargain. Let's look at another perplexing question. Why then did the Grey Fox target the poor Countess's statue? Well, this is where things get extremely interesting. As we know the following. A. The Grey Fox has sworn to protect the waterfront and its residents. B. Vlenaris Conventual once erroneously claimed he was the Grey Fox when interrogated by the Imperial Watch, and it was later revealed he was under the influence of vast amounts of skooma that had somehow permeated the waterfront, which no doubt captured the attention of the Grey Fox. C. The Count is aware of and partakes in super parties with skooma suppliers. And D. Around 8 p.m. every Turdus, an orc named Ogashkra Magal departs Cheydinhal and rides to the waterfront to pick up her supply of skooma from none other than Mavrina Arano's barrel, which the Aurums oddly have a key to. Wait, yes, this is the same Mavrina Arano that just betrayed the Brotherhood and is now languishing in the Imperial prison, thanks to the Grey Fox. All in all, this paints a clear picture, to me at least, that the Grey Fox became aware of not only Mavrina infiltrating the Thieves Guild, but then he made a calculated decision to use the bust of Lady Lothasa as bait. As, in a stroke of genius, the Grey Fox not only threw the scent off himself with Hieronymus Lex and the Guard, but also crippled a large skooma ring which was targeting his beloved waterfront, and, in tandem, sent a pretty clear warning to the Count of Cheydinhal that he knows about said skooma ring, and possibly his wife. A masterful, three-pronged attack, if I do say so myself. Now, obviously the writers have made pains to show it was most likely the Count responsible for his wife's death, but went even further with provable repercussions. The Count would suffer greatly for murdering his betrothed and living the life of a profligate. Speaking of profligates in Riverview, the Count's son, Farwell, and fellow self-proclaimed Knights of the Thorn can sometimes be found standing outside of the establishment, almost peering inside wanting to be a part of his father's big boy crowd. But why? Well, local bookstore owner Mark Nahr discusses.
Well met. Imperials hate Dark Elves. Dark Elves hate Imperials. Imperials hate that a no-name Lalu trader got made into a count. Andal Indorus doesn't help his case by having a prat for a son and a wife that dies in very suspicious circumstances.
Prat for a son, eh? In a previous lore episode, we explored what happens when discovering the Count's only son, Farwell, the well-meaning but hapless idiot, finds himself, in a twist of karma, stranded in an Oblivion Gate. During his stay there, we're inevitably tasked by the Count himself to retrieve his son.
Are you mad? A Knight of the Thorn never returns home until the mission is done. It's our way. Now, in my father's name, as Count Indorus of Cheydinhal, I order you to lead me to that sigil stone. Onward and upward! Huzzah!
And Farwell, if freed, will take all the glory for himself. A much darker option would be to murder Farwell, or leave his lifeless corpse in oblivion and gleefully report it back to his own father.
You have some nerve addressing me after slaying my son. You're lucky I didn't have you executed on the spot. Now, get out of my sight.
Only someone truly despicable wouldn't pick up a blade on the spot after being informed their only heir was murdered. But that's par for course with Indaris. What is more deliciously ironic is how the Oblivion Gate is also arguably the Count's direct fault for even existing. How, you ask? Well, remember earlier how I said there were repercussions for the Count's actions? Well, it seems the sins of the fathers is a true statement. See, while the Count was out indulging in skooma and harlotry in Riverview, he seems to have a captive audience. Not the elites joining in on the debauchery, but the servants that make the parties possible. One Tanasa Arano states,
I'm the charwoman at Riverview, Tanasa Arano. I clean up after Voronil and his parties.
On the topic of Cheydinhal, she'll give a bit of background information.
Lots of us Dark Elves came to Cyrodiil to get away from the temple. We're sick of living under the thumb of the priests and scraping by on the dole.
Congruently, fellow mate Talisi Girith says,
I am Talisi Girith. I'm a maid at Riverview, and it's no picnic, I'll tell you.
And she's more than willing to share her thoughts on her upper-class employee, Voronil.
He pays peanuts, and thinks it entitles him to chew us out 18 hours a day. Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake coming here.
Unfortunately for the nobility, both Dark Elf maidens hide a volatile secret. They are Mythic Dawn sleeper agents posted in Cheydinhal, which I covered previously in a video outlining every Mythic Dawn Sleeper agent's lives before and after being activated. These agents serve a vital function, erecting the local Oblivion gates outside cities during the main quest. We even have easy-to-spot proof that the ladies serve Mehrunes Dagon, as they possess Mythic Dawn Commentaries Volume 2 in their sleeping quarters. Not that any of the partygoers would deign to check. This is also a tidy callback to the previous episode as to why the Grey Fox may have ejected Raven Cameron from the Waterfront District. However, the true irony of the Dunmer Maidens is that if the Count's wife didn't die, it seems he wouldn't be drinking skooma and engaging in debauchery, resulting in the acrimonious maids erecting an Oblivion Gate that, in a delicious twist of fate, was directly responsible for the death of his only son. Hope there's plenty of room down in your crypt, Andal. Even better is the fact that due to the Dark Elf duo being worked so hard, they barely leave Riverview. As such, I like to imagine that they let their Mythic Dawn identity burst forth during one of those super parties as an intoxicated Count Andal Indarius impotently watches on in horror.
Stay away!
Only in his last moments truly understanding he was the author of his own terrible fate, and the act was divine retribution for his wife's passing before he succumbs to a Mythic Dawn agent's summoned weapon raining down on him in the name of Lord Dagon.
Be glad you will not live to see the day Lord Dagon walks the earth.